Hey everybody, Taz from Critical Thinking Anarchist here, and wow, Gina Carano settled her lawsuit with Disney, and I don't know that anybody saw that coming. At least I know a lot of people hoped she wouldn't settle. A lot of people hoped she would straight outright beat the ever living heck out of Disney. Um, in many ways, she did, but let's kind of go back here. So back 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. Um, Gina was her contract ended. She was not technically fired, but she was fired. Had the contract just ended, that would have been it. She really wouldn't have had any recourse, and it would have been really horrible. But hey, nothing really she could do. And you guys have seen my video on the previous one. Hopefully, if not, go back and you can kind of see what happened there. So this is from People. They did kind of a good history of it. Normally, I don't like going to People or USA Today or any of the other big ones, but they actually had a pretty good timeline on this. So we'll just kind of go through it here. So back in 2021, Gina Carano was in a years-long legal dispute with the Walt Disney Company after she was fired from The Mandalorian. Sorry, I read that wrong. Carano, who played Cara Dune in the Disney Plus series, sued her former employer for wrongful termination and discrimination in 2024 and August of 2025. Both Disney and Carano confirmed that they had settled the lawsuit for an undisclosed amount of money. Um, and part of that, a lot of that is because Elon, post COVID, was sitting there like, "Hey, was anybody fired? Wrongfully fired during this time from any place? I will fund your lawsuit." And Gina was like, raised her hand like, me. And with a little bit of push from some fans and some feedback, Elon said, "Hey, send in someone your way." And she was contacted by a law firm, and they started the process. Um, so the Deadpool actress was fired in early 2021 after she faced backlash for controversial social media posts. Well, let's go back to the controversial social media posts. Um, let's see if we can actually see it here. Yep. So she posted on Instagram. Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How's that different than? How's that any different from hating someone for their political views? And of course, this person's like, did she just compare the Holocaust to being Republican? In 2020, 2021, 2022? Yeah. I mean, people are literally calling Republicans Nazis. Even today, a lot of people are literally calling Republicans Nazis. When it's really, a lot of it's the opposite. They're like, we hate you, we hate you, we hate you, just for having an opinion, just for thinking differently. Um, you know, while the Democrats were in charge, they were basically saying, um, a lot of people, the neighbors, people's neighbors, they were saying, disassociate from your family, disassociate from anyone who disagrees with you, disassociate from anyone who thinks differently. Get them out of your lives. So I mean, that was the impetus. That was the thing that was the last straw, as it says. Apparently, Gina had some issues with somebody there before, and they had called her out because she wasn't putting pronouns in her bio, in her Twitter bio, in her Instagram bio. And she's like, "Well, I don't understand. What is the point of this?" And they're like, "Well, it's to show your support for trans people and LGBTQ and blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Well, I don't understand how that helps you guys, but, I'm not going to do it. But hey, I fully support you. I love you. I think you're amazing. I just don't see the point of it. I don't understand why this is a thing." And so she was brought in front of studio execs, and they said, well, we want to send you to kind of like a sensitivity training type of thing, and have you sit in a group of 40 people on a Zoom call, because this is still COVID, and basically be subject to a beatdown online. And she's like, no, I'm not doing that. And they said, okay, well, how about, and they said, well, we have a specialist type of thing, an expert in this type of thing. And so we're gonna have you go to that person. She said, okay, I'll go to that person. I'll talk to someone face to face, one on one, or even Zoom call one on one. So she talked to the person one on one, and they came out of it afterwards and said, no, Gina's fantastic. She's fully in support of everything. She just doesn't want to do this one thing. So but otherwise, she's fully on board with everything, and she's great, and she's wonderful, great personality. We love her. Now, keep in mind, as far as anyone knows, all that has ever come out since from other actors and other people on the sets has all been positive. Anybody who's ever actually interacted with her has said what an amazing person she is, how wonderful she is, how great she is, and couldn't be happier with her. So this was all concocted by someone else. Who knows who she upset there? But she upset somebody. Hold on just a second here. Sorry, my daughter doesn't want to go down for a nap. I don't know if you could hear that or not. We'll see. So that was the first thing on it. And then she posted the Instagram thing, and that got around and became a big deal. And Disney said, we are no longer going to be doing this. So again, if you want to read the whole thing kind of in more detail, you can. But yeah, I mean, she even worked with Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal has been everywhere for the last 4 years. What she said, she later explained that her co-star Pedro Pascal helped her understand why people were putting them in her bios. She's like, I didn't know before, but I do now. I won't be putting in my bio, but good for you, for all who choose. I stand against bullying, especially the vulnerable and the freedom and da 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 da. At the time, then Disney CEO Bob Chapek, he was, I don't care what his title was, he was never actually CEO. He was a shadow. He was a puppet for Iger. Said Disney fired Carano because her comments didn't align with the company's values. Now that is but he it still kind of gave him a way out. It was this last one here. Lucasfilm also explained the firing by saying in a statement, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. That was where Disney lost. Bob Chapek left it very, very, very vague. Comments didn't align with company's values. What comments? I don't know. We could say one thing one way or another. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Who knows? That's not where they got in trouble. I mean, it opened the door just a little bit. She might have had a leg to stand on there, but but it was the Lucasfilm comment. This is what gave Gina her lawsuit. Her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. That pinpointed to a specific thing. And once it did that, and especially with them not going after Pedro Pascal, who has said many, many things since that have been way, way worse. Rachel Zegler, who has said many, many things since that have been way, way, way worse. Mark Hamill, who has said many, many things since that have been way, way worse. And none of them were fired. None of them were let go from any of their Disney projects. And those are just the big three. Those are just the high-profile ones. So then it goes into a little bit more of her history, being Cara Dune on The Mandalorian, and all this other stuff. I'll explain her absence. Who cares? You know, you just say she's on another planet. I don't know. I learned the fate of Dune. The characters Dijon and High Magistrate Grief Karga, Carl Weathers, had a conversation in which Karga asked John if he wanted to replace Dune as a marshal in Navarro because she had been promoted to the Special Forces of the New Republic. The show's executive producer, Rick Famuyiwa, I apologize, Rick, I'm not saying your name right, told Deadline that he and the other showrunners had carefully considered how to handle Dune's absence. Carol was a big part and continues as a character to be part of the world. It had to be addressed in the creative, and Favreau took the time to think about that because Favreau is smart, and if you know anything about the history of this again, Favreau was working with Gina. You know, he talked to her multiple times and basically said, there's the show, The Rangers of the New Republic, and she was going to be the star of it, or a co-star of it at least. And even with some of the other things that she was going through, John was like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of it." So for some reason, somebody got it up, way, way, way up high. I mean, if Jon Favreau can't say, "Hey, let it go. I want her," it went to the top. Is what I'm saying. So anyway, because Jon Favreau is about as close. I'd probably say it would be, as far as Lucasfilm is concerned, it would be, what's her name? The gaming name, Feige is right below. Favreau is probably 3-4 in that area. At the time, Favreau might not have been as high. Probably now he might not even be as high. But I mean, Favreau, let's face it, Favreau is the only one that's made Disney billions of dollars in the last decade. And, talking multiple billions of dollars, with the exception of Deadpool. But he's the only person that can honestly sit there. I mean, he brought them Iron Man. He brought them half the MCU. If it wasn't for Favreau, most of the MCU that made the money wouldn't get made. And most of the actors wouldn't be there. So Favreau is probably about as close to like I said, I don't know how much he's involved in the Marvel Lucasfilm area right now, but when it comes to Disney, he's about as close to number 3, number 4 as you can get, without being a fully established person there. So if he can't say, leave it alone, then it's bad. So nearly 3 years after she was fired, Carano sued the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm for allegedly firing her as a result of her conservative messages. She claimed the firing caused her emotional damage and that she lost millions of dollars in income from the show. At the time of the 2024 lawsuit, she was asking Lucasfilm to either rehire her or pay her at least $75,000. That's it, $75,000. I'm guaranteeing you she settled for a lot more than that. When that was at the beginning of the lawsuit, or prior to the lawsuit, or whatever. 75 grand to say, and it probably would have also been an apology, saying, "Hey, we shouldn't have said what we said about her messages." Probably should have been that, but unfortunately they doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down over the last year. And I am sure it cost them a lot more than that. At the very least, there's probably, now granted, I'm not a lawyer. I have almost no experience in this type of law. I'm going to guess the 75 is probably a foregone conclusion. She got 75 minimum, bare minimum. And either the opportunity to work in certain Disney projects, with a base pay, or over a certain amount of time, or if she doesn't work in those projects over that certain amount of time, they probably have to pay her, kind of like an equivalent type of thing based upon on what a typical person of her stature would have got during that. We'll see. Disney's in a lot of trouble, and this doesn't help them by any means. They should have just settled it way back then and said, "Here's your 75 grand and done." They should have. How is Gina's lawsuit resolved? Over a year later, the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm are pleased to announce that we have reached an agreement with Gina Carano to resolve the issues in her pending lawsuit against the companies. Ms. Carano was always well respected by her directors, co-stars, and staff, and she worked hard to perfect her craft while treating her colleagues with kindness and respect. Again, from everybody who has spoken out, that is 100% true. Now, granted, there's a lot of people who we don't know, but I have not heard one thing from anybody who has met her and worked with her saying anything negative about her. Not one. Not that I'm somebody who follows her like constantly. I mean, I follow her on Twitter. But aside from that, and I follow some of the things that she's done on with the Geeks and Gamers crew, and especially Drunk 3PO Jay there, because they were touring around for a good time, a good long time there. So somebody who probably didn't know her, was probably at arm's length, didn't like her for some reason. Who knows why. And then she says on her own, "I have come to an agreement with Disney and Lucasfilm, which I believe is the best outcome for all parties involved. I hope this brings healing to the Force," which is cute. "I want to extend my deepest, most heartfelt gratitude to Elon Musk, a man I've never met, who did this good Samaritan deed for me in funding my lawsuit. Thank you, Mr. Musk and X, for backing my case and asking for nothing in return. To the lawyers at Share Jaffe, who walked me through this unknown territory, thank you for your wisdom and guidance. I am humbled and grateful to God for his love and grace in this outcome. I'd like to thank all of you for your unrelenting support throughout my life and career. I hope you've been the heartbeat that has kept my story alive. I hope to make you proud. I am excited to flip the page and move on to the next chapter. My desires remain in the hearts, which is where I hope you'll join me. Yes, I'm smiling. From my heart to yours, Gina." And Elon Musk replying, and I haven't got that. How adorable is that? I mean, you couldn't get much better than that. So, and again, a lot of people, what's she done? She's been mostly touring fan cons. And so a lot of people, of course, are asking, like, why not see it through? Why not take them for all they're worth? And the reality is, it's been 4 long years for her to go through this, to face people, online. Who cares? And I don't know that she's had to deal with much, if any, in person. I know there's a couple of boycotts at some fan expos, a couple of protests, and only like literally less than a dozen people showed up at any of them. So I'm assuming she hasn't really dealt with much there. She's had a lot of, I know her lines were some of the longest at those cons when you watch the videos of them. So I think it's just, as others have said, it's draining. It takes away. And then, of course, when you're going on this, when you're focusing on this, that means that's taking away time she could be doing. She could be working. She could be, going after more projects. She could be doing this. She could be doing that. So this gives her, I like I said, I'm almost 100% sure the financial settlement is in there. Settlement. I said, and that she's supposedly going to be guaranteed work or more money in addition to that. So That is it. That's all I got for today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. It really does help. And if you can, give me a comment. What do you think about this? Do you think she should have gone after it? Do you think she was right to settle? Let me know, and I will see you in the next one. You guys take care. Bye for now.